Hello everyone, Danielle and Terry Dunfield here with you up at the Kia training grounds, and today was all about rest and recovery. No rigorous training session for the Reds as they are still recouping from everything that went down on Tuesday at Olympic Stadium. Players were walking around with ice bags on them, bandages wrapped around them, and honestly I felt so bad for Tosaint Ricketts. He had a massive chunk of skin missing from his lower leg, and that is all a side effect from the turf at Olympic Stadium. So let's get into it. We'll look back on Tuesday as well as briefly look ahead towards Wednesday next week. If there is one thing that we learned on Tuesday, measure twice, paint once. Joey Saputo was embarrassed that that had happened to them, hopes that it never happens again, but we can only worry about ourselves, and we know that that won't happen at BMO Field.
No, of course not. And one of the concerns maybe that some of the fans have is the CFL Grey Cup final on Sunday. I actually just bumped into the head groundsman. He said it's not to be worried about, nothing to worry about. The pitch won't be chewed up. They actually play it 3 inches high for the CFL, the grass. That takes some of the wear and tear out of the field. For the soccer games, they cut it down to 1 inch, so that's not an issue. There'll be tarps on the pitch at night. It'll be immaculate.
Now, TFC and the Montreal Impact have been making waves across Canada. They set a record on Tuesday in terms of viewership. Over 1 million people tuned in on TSN and RDS. What does that say about the traction that they are truly gaining across North America?
Yeah, it's incredible for Canadian soccer. I love it. I think it peaked out at 3.6 million people had tuned in at one point. That's 10% of the country's watching this. A bumper crowd. MLS is the second biggest crowd of all time history. 61,000 people were there. It's incredible. And the second leg on the back of an entertaining 5-goal game can only get bigger, the attendances and viewer population.
Entertaining to say the least. I mean, it was a roller coaster of emotions from the way that the match had started and all the drama to cap it off. But Greg Vanney said that, you know, it was a bit of a reservation from his players' side that he noticed emotionally. Why was that, Terry?
I think there's a few factors that play into that. The delayed start, that's not ideal. People have meticulous warm-up routines and superstitions, and just when that drags on, your timing just gets thrown off a little bit. I think in the back of the mind, there's one or two who actually had legitimate concerns about their body playing on the turf, the yellow card thing. That's in your back of the mind. You just don't want to pick up a second yellow and miss that leg. So I think all of those play a factor. Also, I think you got to give the Montreal Impact a little bit of credit as well. They came flying out of the gate. They were very good in the first 20 minutes and almost surprised me a little bit how high they pressed TFC, and Patrice Bernier playing a little bit higher midfield. He was a pain in our backside.
Well, the fact that TFC scored 2 late goals to put themselves back into it heading back to BMO Field, now they feel as though they're in the driver's seat.
What's the mood going into the home leg now, Joseph?
Yeah, it's positive. It's everything to play for now. You know, 1-0 is enough to kind of get you to the final of the MLS Cup. So, you know, it's 90 minutes now, and you know, we take care of business and we're in the final, so that's what we're thinking about.
We're in a much better situation than as if it would have finished 3-0, but you know, we're happy to come home, and we've been great at home all year, so we want to continue with that success, and you know, we're in a good position.
Greg Vanney made 2 substitutions that really helped to shift the momentum for the Reds. He brought on Will Johnson and Tosaint Ricketts, who is always a spark plug off of the bench. So in your mind as a coach, is that something that you consider coming back to BMO Field, making personnel changes?
Yeah, I think Greg Vanney definitely has a decision on his hands, especially the Will Johnson one. He came in, he brought a ton of energy. He also gave Michael Bradley a little bit of help defensively. He found a pocket to play, he played some great balls into Josie Altidore. Up front, Tosaint Ricketts was excellent. His pace stretched Montreal. Josie Altidore came alive when Tosaint Ricketts came in, and the two of them up front were a handful. It allowed Javinko to just drop into midfield. One thing though, regardless of personnel, TFC have got to be just a little bit better with their decision making. I think you look at the goals, Montreal didn't really break down TFC. I think Greg Vanney and the players would definitely like those goals back, which is a good thing. I think TFC got out of jail at 3-0. So on the back of all of those things, I think TFC go into the game on Wednesday with a ton of confidence, and we might see 1 or 2 changes.
Well, we are looking at nearly a sellout crowd at BMO Field. Grandstand tickets went on sale, so that means that nearly 37,000 fans will be in attendance on November 30th at BMO Field. Make sure you keep it locked at TorontoFC.ca for the duration of the week. On Friday, we will be unveiling our latest sit-down with defender Drew Moore, arguably the nicest player in the game. That's all coming up later in the week on TorontoFC.ca.